Hello, you're listening to Cheat Sheet, the podcast that gets you up to speed without the doom scrolling.
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to, and we're going to bring all of it to you in 10 minutes.
I'm Wilfred Frost.
And I'm Sophy Ridge. It is Tuesday the 4th of November. What's happening today, Wilf?
Well, top story. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has made a big hint that there could be more tax rises to come, possibly ones that break the manifesto. She's making a speech in Downing Street, 8 a.m.
Online porn showing women being choked is going to be banned. This is the latest move to try and tackle violence against women and girls. We'll also discuss if young drivers on the road should have restrictions on their driving licences.
And knighthoods are being awarded at Windsor Castle today. David Beckham, perhaps the most high-profile name on the list. We'll discuss who else is on it. So the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is due to give a speech today in Downing Street at 8 a.m. It's quite an odd move. Some of what she's expected to say has started to come out. And essentially, Sophie, we're reading this a few weeks away from the budget as she's preparing the ground to raise taxes, possibly even, we think, some that they pledged in the manifesto that they wouldn't raise.
Yeah, that is right. It's really, really unusual. It's really unusual. And I think that shows how much of a sticky wicket Rachel Reeves is on. The fact that she's obviously felt that it's necessary to do this, to do some of that pitch rolling. She can't say too much. We're not expecting, you know, big policy announcements ahead of the budget. But I picked up a couple of clues in what she said, and it's this bit in particular, because she talks about the people's priorities, which basically means the government's priorities, right? Because everyone's got different priorities. Come on, I hate that sort of word. But anyway, she says the three key priorities are cutting national debt, easing the cost of living, and protecting the NHS. Now, for me, that means I cannot see a rise in VAT, because you can't say that you are going to cut, ease the cost of living and then put up VAT. That doesn't make sense to me, right? She's also saying she's cutting national debt. So that means tax rises, right? It means probably quite painful, big tax rises for some people as well. And then she talks about protecting the NHS. And that, I think, is really interesting as well, because she doesn't want to be known as the austerity chancellor, right? This is a government that wants to show it has got a vision. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see some extra spending even. And it looks like the area that she's prioritising is the health service.
And just remind us what she promised in the manifesto.
Yeah, well, this is it. There's not much wriggle room, I'll be honest. So this was the manifesto. Labour said that they would not increase taxes on working people, which is why we won't increase national insurance, the basic higher or additional rates of income tax or VAT. That sounds black and white, but nothing's black and white in politics. It feels to me like something's got to give, right? And there's been a lot of speculation around income tax in particular.
So I just give the business and an economist view on this. If it's a given that they're not going to borrow more, and they're not going to cut spending, which seems like the case is, and it's all going to fall on taxation. I think almost unanimously, business and economists would say it is better to take political pain and break that manifesto pledge and pull one of the big levers that delivers big bang for your buck, like income tax, than it is to take economic pain and try and raise a large sum of money by lots and lots and lots of little taxes, just so you can say at the end of the day, we never broke our manifesto pledge. So in that sense, I think businesses and economists, they'd probably rather you cut spending, but if that's off the table, they'd rather she comes out and takes a big political hit than damages the economy. She won't get sympathy for doing that, for making a political promise. And the interesting thing on that, for me, is that they could have taken much less of a political hit if they'd used one of those big foreign moments, tariffs in April, to say that's why we're having to break it. By doing it this way, 3 weeks in relative calm in the economic scenario, it's all kind of on them.
It's really, really interesting stuff.
So the suspect in the Huntington train stabbing, Anthony Williams, has now been linked to 4 other knife incidents in Peterborough and London in the 24 hours before the attack. Of course, that has raised lots of questions, Sophie, about whether the police could have done more to prevent the mass stabbing. More, of course, is emerging, but he does remain in custody, charged with 11 counts of attempted murder.
Yeah, the details really are quite something. One of the previous incidents linked to an attack on a 14-year-old boy in Peterborough on Friday night. Another at a barber's in the city where staff reported a man waving a knife around on Friday evening, again on Saturday. And then a third attack in East London. The man's been charged, I should say. online porn showing women being choked or suffocated is going to be banned, which comes after a review which basically found how widespread it was on pornography sites. And it's the latest move to try and tackle violence against women and girls. The thing that I would say here is that this is really important because of what's known as the kind of rough sex defence. Because strangulation in sex is really dangerous, right? People die from it. And what we have seen recently in some of these awful murders that we've seen is that people trying to use a defence of this was consensual sex, as in this was consensual strangulation or whatever it is after a woman has died after being strangled. And for me, this is why it's really important to get this right on choking in particular.
I mean, it's one of those things you read and you kind of think, I can't believe it wasn't banned already. Just worth mentioning that at the moment as well, more broadly, of course, Online Safety Act has brought in age verification to watch porn in the first place. I don't know if you saw those stats a month or so ago. Pornhub has said that 77% fall on their UK site visits since that came into effect. That's obviously all types of pornography, not just this sort of type. So obviously these checks are coming in. Whether that suggests all viewers or the vast majority had been young people, or just that it's made people less keen to give their personal information to watch it. Either way, there's clearly a lot of steps in this area being taken.
Yeah, it's a huge deal for for women and girls, I think, in the drive to try and tackle that violence.
So in the UK, from the moment you pass your driving test, you've got the same rights on the road as people who've been driving for years. That's obviously the case more broadly as well in lots of other countries. But there's cause for people to change that. And this becomes because there is a disproportionate percentage of road deaths and road accidents that happen with young people defined as 17 to 24, also disproportionately in the early months, after they've passed their tests. So young men are 4 times more likely to be killed or seriously injured compared to drivers over 25 years. And that's led to calls to have a graduate driving licence. You passed, but it's early since you passed. You're very young, so you have different rules and regs than other drivers.
Yeah, I don't think the government is going to do this, I should say. It's one of those things that they've kind of said that, they're not looking into it. They're looking at other measures to protect young drivers, they say. And I guess the other point I would say is I'm always quite conscious to not look at these stories from too much of a London perspective, right? Because not everyone has the tube, not everyone has buses that runs every 5 minutes. If you're in a part of the country where you don't have that public transport, then for a lot of young people, cars are very, very important to get to work, to get to education, all those kind of things too. So I think that perhaps is why the government are a little bit squeamish about putting too many restrictions on those early driving licences.
There's also the point, isn't it? There's a test. Maybe make the test harder. Or there's a driving age. Maybe make the driving age higher, rather than necessarily saying there's a sort of 2-class citizen aspect if you're putting a test in front of someone and they pass it. But it's really interesting. We'll see if the government follows up on those calls.
So David Beckham has finally got his knighthood. He can collect it from Windsor Castle today. Well done, David Beckham. He got an OBE, I should say, back in 2003, but clearly that didn't go far enough. Apparently he would have been knighted earlier, but then some slightly explosive emails were leaked about his allegations about the Honours Committee, so that might not have worked in his favour.
I'm a massive Bex fan, so I think it's long overdue. Delighted to see him get this today. There's some other names in there. Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, Sir Melvin.
Sir Mel.
Will arise. Sir Melvin, I looked up.
Yeah, there you go. Love it.
Will arise. Elaine Page, I love that. Getting a damehood. Are you a fan of musicals?
No, but I am a fan of Kazuo Shiguro, big time, who is also getting an honour. So he's the author of The Remains of the Day, of Never Let Me Go, one of my all-time favourite authors. And I'm so happy in particular he's got this honour because he's like a kind of outsider looking at English society so much, even though, because he's kind of has this kind of Japanese heritage. And yeah, it's great. I'm really happy.
Well, congratulations to all of those people, and looking forward to the pictures as they come in, as they pick up their gongs.
Well, that is today's cheat sheet. If you've got a story you want us to cover, then our email address is cheatsheet@sky.uk, so let us know what you think. And of course, you can follow us Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts.
See you again tomorrow.